Welcome to another episode of Equipped Agronomy Podcast, where we bridge that gap between seeding equipment and agronomy. This is presented to you by Bourgault Industries. My name is Curtis DeGoyer, and I have across from me Mr. Jeff Strukoff.
Hello, hello.
Hello, Jeff.
How's it going, man?
It's good again. It's always good to take words from you. No,
it's always good. Yeah.
It is. It's
a choice. Just choose to be that way.
It's good. It's good. And today we're gonna hopefully make it even better by talking about something that is pretty cool.
It's
pretty
exciting.
new.
It's exciting.
It's something that I would say we've been working on in the background, the very, very far background for
several years.
5-6 years, kind of just seeing this whole thing evolve. And that's why we're going to talk about BiCK. Bourgault Intelligent Control. It was not called BiCK earlier on. Well, it was, and then it wasn't, and then it was kind of all over the place.
I think we're awful with acronyms in the first place, but it had a different acronym, and now it's actually BiCK. And I like
the pen.
I like BiCK actually. It's Bourgault Intelligent Control.
Yeah,
it's what it is.
Well, what is it?
Well, I don't know. Tell me.
Well, it's our own in-house controller. So, for those that don't know or don't use a Bourgault drill, or a newer one for that matter, Topcon has been our supplier of our controller. We've got started with the X20s, the X30s, 35s, 40s. What was it? Well, prior to the X20, I guess it was zinc. Zincs, is that right?
Zincs, yeah.
Zincs, yeah. And but no, Topcon is a very good partner. Honestly, that controller, that X40, is a very, very capable controller. It's the best one on the market. I'll say that as far as capabilities.
Has a ton of capabilities, yeah.
Like once you get onto that thing, it is awesome. Awesome. Yeah. It's just that initial learning curve, and you use a controller for in our neck of the woods where they're not used quite as much on the steering side, so that monitor is really only used on our drill. And you got to learn it every year again, because you only use it for 2-3 weeks a year. Well, hopefully. Yeah. And then, you got all these other controllers out there that you got on your sprayer and your combines and all this and that. And, and you get back next year and it's like, oh man, I got to learn this thing again. Or you know what, I got a hired guy that I got to train up on this. And, it just take a little bit. Not that it wasn't impossible to do. We got great training resources online and videos and all of that. But where would I say the biggest challenge was, working with another company in general, right? And it doesn't matter who it is.
Yeah.
Well, here's the one thing that I had asked for. So I've been agronomist here for 10 years.
Yep.
First year, kind of one of my biggest requests or questions, I guess, not at that point a request. The question was, well, can I get a VR map onto the monitor, seed, and then get my as applied off that monitor without the use of a physical USB stick? And I think that from day one has always been my request. Every single year, we've tried a bunch of different things. Not saying it wasn't impossible through a few things that Topcon offered, like TAP, and it was just a little tricky, and I never really did it. I never really got to that point where it was usable.
Wasn't to the point where it was very user-friendly.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is just one aspect where it was like, you know what? Man, that'd be cool to do. Well, to fast forward to this year, this fall, guess what? I got no USB stick. I got a VR map to be used on our seeder.
This is using our BiCK control.
Using our BiCK controller.
Yeah.
Everything sent wirelessly, and then got applied, and then I looked at that data on the computer afterwards without a USB stick whatsoever in that whole process. And you know what? It was pretty cool. Yeah. Now we'll get into the actual physical components of some of this a little bit, but some people are probably saying, well, oh, wow, a wireless controller. We've been able to do that for a lot of years, right? And it's, you know what? Fine. Fair enough. We've gotten to that point, and I think we got some really cool things as well. and some integration with it. And I think that's kind of the key point of all of this too, where we're not necessarily reinventing the wheel at this point in time on a bunch of different things. It's almost piggybacking off the ISO bus. So,
but I do think, just without getting into it in great detail or anything like that, just from my standpoint, like I'm not an electronics genius by any means at all. Mm-hmm. But as far as the layout goes, it just seems a lot simpler. Mm-hmm. If I can figure it out, anybody can figure it out. And when they gave it to me, it didn't come with a manual. They literally handed it to me and said, here, set up your plan, set up everything like that. And within 10 minutes, without any coaching or anything like that, I was actually able to figure it out on my own. And that says a lot with the simplicity, because I'm pretty simple. So, yeah.
Well, I think
I was pretty happy with it
That
myself.
was the main drive of it too, right? Because we listened to what a lot of feedback came to us, right? And,
it's not to knock TopCon. It would actually, if you put the time in and you figured it out, it actually was pretty simple too. It just, there was a little bit more to learn to get it to that point.
So, what makes this so different is that this is actually a in-house built system, right? We never really had a technological side of that part, right? TopCon did it. We had people who worked with them and made it work on our
Now we have a Bourgault team that's
actually
started on this from start to finish.
From scratch, and built this thing up.
Right from the ground up.
So it has different ECUs. It has a gateway. And so that's what makes it the wireless that between the tank into the tractor cab. There's no big harness that goes in. Of course, we'll be able to have an Ethernet cable if you wanted. But we've been running for a few years, and it's been working pretty darn good on that. But there's always going to be a backup available, very simple cord to go into that. And so it kind of changed the game here at Bourgault as far as, we're not just a equipment company, we're a tech company too now, right? And that's important. And what's the biggest advantage? Well, here's an example. I was using it one day, and there was something, as you're going through it, and it's like, oh man, I wish we could kind of, if they would do this, right? I can't remember exactly what it was. Some look or layout or pop out or something. I was like, man, it'd be cool if it did this. So I just, sent the team that message, and the next morning there was an update. Boop. It was in there.
Yeah.
Right?
You didn't have to wait 10 years for that.
That's right. Not even a year, right?
Yeah.
Not even a month. It was a day. Now, not saying that that's always going to be the case, but I think it does speak to the potential of...
But they're receptive to good ideas being brought forward, and they can implement them just like that.
Just like that, and, push something out that, we can try, and hopefully it makes it a lot more, just user-friendly, right? And that was the whole goal. Keep it simple, keep it functional.
Yeah.
Right. So, no cables coming into the tractor. That's pretty neat. Now, this is where it's important to understand how the whole controller works, though, because we do tap into the ISO bus.
Correct.
Jeff, do you know what the ISO bus is?
I know exactly where it plugs in.
Yeah, it's a low mic extend too. It's that thing at the back of the tractor. So, how that all works? I mean, it's just a channel of signals basically, and it goes into the tractor monitor, and we're tapping into that. And so we utilize the tractor monitor as well. So this year we were using we had a John Deere, we had a G4 monitor in there. And so how did we achieve this whole no USBs thing? Well, to be completely honest with you, it was just right through JD Op Center. Right? That's how the system works. We have an account. You can just put up your VR into that account, and you send the file to the tractor. Someone's in the tractor, says, hey, there's a file for you. Boop, pulls it in. And
how does it go?
Boop, pulls it right on in there. Yeah. And it's just that simple.
It is.
Again, the John Deere guys are laughing because they're like, well, yeah, we've had that for a long time, right? But it's a great system. And so why wouldn't we work together on it? And then that was the idea. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of like our task controller, right? So it does the John Deere monitor is what we used. Also on the Case 1200 or the
700.
New Holland. No, not the 7. No,
right.
Not the 7. The 1200 or the 12. On the New Holland side. So that's the low. That's what the monitor you have to have. So it does the mapping. So it does the rate, obviously, with the VR map if you have a VR application, and then it maps on there. So it does the sectional control. It it does the sectional control in there as well. And then, how it works as far as setting up the tanks. Yeah, that's where you have a seed plan on our monitor, and you set up what you're putting down. So wheat, urea, potash, phos, whatever.
All your ingredients.
All your ingredients. You set that up, and then so when it's plugged in, it just like pulls it in to the monitor. Again, I can't explain it, but there it is. Poof! It's got your tanks in there, and so that's how that system works. And so when you're done seeding, well, you go to the next field. Well, it automatically sends it off to your control or to your account, right? And you can access it via online, and that was neat. And I would say probably another cool thing that we played with on that was the work planner on it too, where you could just assign your tanks, you could assign the maps to the tanks, let's say, or the product, I should say. That's an important differentiation. We're gonna talk about that for a second. We assign the map to the product, and whereas before you'd have to do that at the start, just at the edge of the field with a Top Gun, you couldn't really assign those things ahead of time. Well, I did that on my computer the night before, sent it to the tractor. The guys, we had somebody else driving it that in the fall, this past fall, just doing some testing banding, and it like, boop, here's the work plan, pulls it up onto the field, VR maps ready to go, drive in, start going. Like, pretty slick, right? And so I thought that was really neat how, it does that. So what does our controller do? Right? Why if we're going to use everything, why aren't we, what's the point of BiCK then? What's it doing? So that's on the product side of stuff. It goes through the tractor controller, the mapping and all that. Well, we still have Dynacal that we run in ours, right? So that's the scales, and then it's automatically calibrating. So all the calibrations on our tank and the actual driving of the meter happens through our monitor. So it's basically just getting the rates in, and then our system takes over from there. As well as on the drill side of stuff, we completely control the drill, pressures, if you have AccuSet or if you
lift
have
lower,
lift
all that
lower,
stuff, all those different functions.
Exactly. Packmaster, those kinds of things. That's still on our controller, and I think that was kind of the setup on how it works and how to get the data to and then from that system. So I kind of alluded to it before about this whole product centric. And that's kind of neat. There's one thing on there, and this is where you have different people trying this out. So in our at the farm here, Bourgault, we typically have 5 products, right? We've got all 5 tanks running, just the way that we blend. And again, logistically, it's maybe a little bit easier. We got maybe a few less acres. We got the trucks for it, basically, is what it comes down to. But for others who do a blend, who would typically run, let's say, 2 or 1 product in 2 or 3 tanks, right? And then they just they'd have to manually do a percentage-wise before on getting it out. Well, now with this BiCK system, it's kind of neat. It just says, okay, you have this product, this blend, and you want to apply it at 100 pounds an acre. Well, if you have that in 2 or 3 tanks or however many it is, it automatically figures out where it's got to pull out of. And it's always monitoring, so the calibration and everything there. So all of those 3 tanks, let's say, will all empty at the same time. So it's pretty neat.
It helps you maximize your efficiency, long and short of it. Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you for summing it up. I was just waiting
for you to back there. I was just waiting for you to finish so I could get that in there. Yeah.
It's very exciting though. It's a really neat system. And so a couple of really cool ideas, and they're not going to quit at that, right? There's a couple other things they're working on. So I think that there's some real potential with that, I guess moving forward. So why are we talking about that here on this podcast, as far as on the Agronomic podcast? I think one of the big things there on the data management, again, on the VR side of stuff, being able to utilize that a little bit easier, I think was important. And then when it gets into the as applied, what happened out here, right? And can I access that information easy? And can I go and take a look? Especially if you're not the owner operator.
I think if it's easy, people use it. If it's a little bit more difficult, sometimes it gets pushed by the wayside. But I think there's a lot of data that's actually accumulated that has a useful value that can actually produce results in the future, like positive results in the future.
Yeah. So what's an example of that? If you had a field out there and you're tracking it year over year on the yield side of it, and I've heard of there's examples of this where it's happened where it's like that part of the field is not producing. There's something wrong. Maybe it's salinity. Maybe it can't be fixed. You can track. Well, I'm spending $100 an acre on inputs, and I'm getting $50 an acre every time out of it, right? Like because it's just not yielding. Like why am I'm losing money every time I seed that? So why seed it?
Yeah.
Right. And that's a crazy thought. Is like, I'm not going to seed that piece of land, and I'm going to be money ahead.
Or seed it to something maybe not so traditional.
Exactly.
Tall wheatgrass, whatever. Like
put it to alfalfa. I don't know. Satisfy those cow guys around there.
Get something to grow.
Get something growing, but it just allows you to make that decision a little bit more confidently and take a look at that and easier, right? Because all this, to your point, like this data, there's tons of data out there.
Oh yeah.
But has it been looked at again, right? Like you might have the hard drive's full of information, but if you can't access it and look at it, compare it.
What good is it?
It's pretty tough to make a decision off of that, right? Other than some pretty pictures, but let's bring that in. So I think this is a very important step that we had to bring it in, to be able to utilize it. John Deere Ops Center there, and I'm gonna, is it Field Ops? I think is maybe on the Case New Holland side of it, right? So they're gonna have the same, whatever, you can throw your argument in there, same capabilities, but to utilize this a little bit easier, this data information.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably the biggest advantage on the data side. But then on the, there's some other things with this BiCK monitor that I think are going to be important too on the service side and the troubleshooting side of it. That we've got a lot of information, a lot of experience with our drills, obviously, and they're not going to get less technical, right? We're already bringing in so many more sensors, and we want to make sure that when you do this pass, this one chance you have at seeding, right, that it's going to be correct. And so the more feedback you can get from it is going to be important. So what's an example of that? Well, the sectional control, right? Making sure the sectional control is tuned in correctly. And I would say one of my biggest pet peeves on the setup with sectional control on our old systems there, going out there and setting the timings, right? And that was, it's super important, but yet we've got to go out there and physically see the product go, and so you got to put the time in order to get the right, make it work right.
Yeah. Well, it's worth it though.
It is 100%.
You got to put the time in to get the right result. You can't just But it was a huge step forward actually, just getting those default sectional timings in there, so you had a starting point at least.
Yeah,
and they would work.
Yeah.
But if you really wanted to get it dialed in and really bring your overlap or your off times right into, you had to physically go out there and do it.
Yeah, and I'm not saying not, but now we've got this new way of doing it too, where we can just time stuff as well, like just have the product come out and time it there, bang, done. You get to check it more often because it's not such a big ordeal. Yeah. Right? So some of that stuff I think has been very important feedback coming back from producers and dealers too, right? And just the setup. So I think that's another really cool avenue on the whole thing, this whole adventure, this whole BiCK going out. There's just so much. I don't know if you can tell, I'm excited about it. But
yeah, I know. It's
been a long time coming.
Yeah.
So
no, it's I don't know. And then I'm more of a from the practical side. You have a tractor go down.
Yes.
You got to pull it off and put another one in. It doesn't take a whole day to get all them cables all run and like it used to be. It's a lot easier, a lot quicker. So
definitely. Yeah, you need the power pack, I guess, on there.
Yeah,
and that's what makes it a lot easier as well, right? Just not running that big battery harness in. So
so it's good.
So I think there's a lot of potential moving forward. So again, right now we're with the ISO bus. Is it ever going to be a standalone system? I don't know.
Well, I don't know.
I guess we'll have to find out.
They're not going to stop actually developing it.
I can almost guarantee that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we both know that they're not going to stop developing it.
Spoiler alert, so I think there's a lot of cool things moving ahead here with it. And, is it full release for next year? No, we're going to have some out. This is a very important piece of our equipment. And we got to have it right, do it right. Otherwise, it's not going to work very well for anybody involved. So yeah, there'll be a few going out, some more evaluations, and then I don't know when full release is going to be. I guess that'll be determined after next spring. So, but
I'm pretty comfortable with it.
Oh man, me too.
Yeah.
Well, we've been using it,
all of 6 years.
Yeah.
And from where it started to where we're at right now, it's pretty bulletproof to me.
It's pretty impressive.
Yep.
So great job to the team there, but I think it's going to be a great move forward. So I don't know, is there anything else we want to talk about BiC? Other than it's an intelligent controller.
It's the Bourgault Intelligent Control.
It's not a pen.
It's not a pen.
Much smarter than a pen.
Yeah.
Just like us.
Yeah.
Some days.
Yeah.
Okay, let's leave it there. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll catch you next episode.
See you, Chris.